Welcome everybody, Namaste Saigon. We're very fortunate today to have a very interesting guest here. I mean, all our guests are interesting, but this one just goes beyond. His name is Patrick Gaveau. He's from France. Am I saying that right, Gaveau?
Gaveau, that's correct.
Okay. I mean, I used to speak French because I'm Canadian, but I lost it. You know, you don't use it, you lose it. And now I just say un petit peu. And that solves the problems. We switch to English and go on.
Thank you, Jay.
Thanks for being here, man. I really appreciate it.
Me too. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to know you a little bit so that, I mean, we already know each other, but people out here don't. Mm-hmm. And I know you've been in Saigon for how many years? 11 years?
No, 14 years.
14.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
A little.
Yeah. I mean, there's people who have been here longer, but I mean, it's about the quality of time. I mean, you've spent your time here, you've developed a business here, you have your family here, you're married to a Vietnamese woman and you have kids, so you've really gotten deep into living here.
Definitely. I mean, I consider Vietnam to be the place that I belong to. You know, is that we will always have a home here and we will always come back here. This is where my children are born, this is where my wife is born, this is where I had some of the best years in my life, and this is the country where I spend the most time all together in my whole life. So yes, I do have very, very strong tie with Vietnam, and I connect with the people, I connect with the values and what this country stands for, and it is the first place on earth that I have lived to after being to 64 countries and living on 8 countries and 5 continents, that I can be myself. Because that's the greater things about, you know, Vietnam, is that there's not that judgmental society which we have in France, where
or in the West,
in general, and you are allowed to be who you are for as long as you don't bother someone else's toes. So in Vietnam, I was able to blossom, to grow, and you know, to become a better version of my own self. So I can be thankful to that, and thanks to Vietnam for giving me so much and the opportunity to be as authentic as I wish to be all the time.
Yeah. You know, that's an interesting point you brought up, that I guess in a way people are less judgmental here, they're more accepting. I mean, in the West, in Canada, US, if you're a little bit different from others, you're considered, oh, that guy's weird, that guy's strange. But look, he wears strange clothes, or he does this, or whatever. You know, they're always looking for some judgment to make on you. Correct. Whereas there are very few places in the world, and Vietnam is one of them, but I mean, even places like Tokyo, for example, there's people who walk around and live their whole life dressed up as a robot. Nobody bothers them, you know what I mean? So you can go to real extremes in a place like that. But what I've noticed about Vietnam is that it's just perfect. There's so many people that have different styles and things like that. It's just all accepted. You know, you can be very casual here. You can wear jean shorts and t-shirt and walk around, and you can wear suits and walk around. Nobody really looks at you and, you know, judges you. I'm not sure what is the reason behind that. Maybe they're just less judgmental due to Buddhist thinking, because I mean, Buddhism, they talk about trying not to judge things too much. Or maybe it's just that foreigners and their differences haven't been here that long. I mean, it's only been about 20, 25 years now that the country has really opened up to people from the West. So why do you think that might be, that they're so accepting here?
I mean, some of the points that you mentioned certainly do play a role. I think we can narrow it down into 2 key terms that exemplify what Vietnam stands for, in my perspective at least. That is tolerance and that is resilience, which are 2 very strong values that Vietnam stands for. So why are they like this? I think that if you look in the past, if you look at the history, it's been a country that has been through so much challenges and so much difficulty and so much pain, you know, that they had no choice but to learn to be resilient. In face of adversity, when you face adversity on a regular basis coming at you all the time, the only thing that can keep you alive is to keep a level of hope and to wait for better days to come. So they've been accustomed to living in a society where things can be tough for a very long time. But they are patient, they are resilient, and they will wait for better days to come, because it's not always dark. The light shines after the dark. So that's what Vietnam has for themselves. And if you put that in a simple picture, it took them patiently 150 years to kick the French out. But in the end, they got it. I believe, historically speaking, it took them 1,000 years to kick the Chinese out. That's quite an accomplishment.
Right? At least the patience.
That's a lot of patience.
They get the job done, but they're very patient.
Exactly.
It takes them a while.
And that relates also to maybe a relation with time. They don't perceive time as we do in the West, and they are not, it's why people are not always on time at meetings, and they are less they are less demanding on respecting, because they have flexible time. What is time? Oh, I will come to visit you this morning, and then they come 2 days later, the electrician, to fix your thing. For 2 days you had no electricity. That's the way it is. But that's relating how they see things. They look at a much longer span of time, instead of us who are focused on way too short of a time frame, and they wait patiently. So now, relating to the second point, which is about tolerance. The fact that they were closed for the last 20-25 years made it that when it opened, people were eager to see what was behind the limitation that was there before, and therefore and it made it that the Vietnamese people, that's their very, very big difference, is they are genuinely driven to learn. This is Confucius based, about always learning. Education is extremely important in the Vietnamese society, but for them, the opening of the world was an opportunity to see behind what they knew, and an opportunity to learn. So when a foreigner comes to Vietnam, for most Vietnamese, they don't see it as a different, as an invader. They see it as an opportunity to discover something they may not know, as an opportunity to learn new ways of doing things. And there's still in the mindset a lot of hopes that the foreigner can bring a lot of value to Vietnam, who sometimes is not as professional, so they see opportunities in learning to be with a foreigner, and then learn from him on how to be more professional, how to improve themselves, how to grow. So these are very strong, valuable, very interesting one.
Yeah, so they look at differences as with a sense of curiosity and interest.
Opportunity.
Yes.
Instead of risk.
Yes.
So there is we in the West, we are on a fear mode.
We see it as a fear, like they're different. Different is not good. We should be careful,
Exactly.
Stay away from the strange people.
It is normal, because we are a very ancient and old society. So we are very conservative in our way of thinking. And we have so much that in fact we kind of fear to lose what we have, because when you have so much, the only thing you do is try to protect what you got. And here, they had nothing during the wars. They lost everything, so they are not trying to protect much that they don't have, but they are trying to acquire more. And how they do it is by being open and inclined to meet differences and to learn from others. So that makes it that there is no racism. And we talk about tolerance. This is reflected as well in the religion, because here there's no conflict of religion. You have Muslim, you have Buddhist, you've got Christians and others, and Hindus and so on, and each of them live peacefully. And what's very funny is that you will often find a Buddhist who is praying maybe in a Hindu temple, or even in a Christian church, and
They don't see that there is a problem with that.
No, that's right, and they respect that others may have different perspective, and for as long as everyone is happy, then why not be?
And as to your point, just down the street is a Hindu temple. Just a little bit down the street from that, there's a mosque. And then just a bit further down was a church of some kind.
There are many.
And there's all kinds everywhere.
Correct.
But I remember a friend of mine, he said that his mother, 50 or 55 years ago, she prayed for him at this Indian temple. She prayed to have a son.
Okay.
And he was born. Just after that, she got pregnant with him. So he said that he's very attached to that temple. Right. Although he doesn't visit it, but when he sees it, he remembers that story. So, and they're not Hindus, they're not even Buddhists. I think they were born. He was born a Christian, but they don't really take it that seriously. That we have to stick to this and not do this, you know. So it's very interesting. But taking into account the way that things are a little bit different here and more open, how do you think How do you think it's made any difference in how they've dealt with what's been going on lately in the world? I mean, in one way, we've been very lucky here in Vietnam because COVID hasn't really had much of a stronghold here, and it's one of the safest places to be. In fact, they've had, I think, maximum 35 deaths.
Correct.
It's amazing for a country this big.
Sure.
It's almost 100 million people.
Correct.
So it's amazing, and I know that people aren't really that scared about it here. Most of the people are pretty confident that the country has got a good protection going on. You know, no one's been allowed to come in for a long time, except for very few people or leave. So I think that they've been very careful and done a good job with it. But it has affected a lot of people in a lot of other ways. I mean, for yourself, you had a company that you developed over the last few years, and I think that now you're thinking about changing things up because the company is no longer the same as it used to be, right?
Sure. And if you don't mind, maybe let us address this point later and just address the point you just mentioned, because that's very interesting. Sure. Why did Vietnam succeed so well? I mean, I think that many of the people in the West do not realize what are the key elements. And in fact, the success story of Vietnam has been replicated in a variety of countries around the world, and most of them are developing countries. So when you look at what happened with the COVID, you know now that the COVID has affected mostly Western, civilized, developed countries. Countries where there is a lot of money and countries where big pharma has a big hold on the system. And you know, other countries which don't have the funds, like Madagascar or so on, decided to go other ways and treat the problem with natural solutions or simpler solutions. And in Vietnam, they knew that medically speaking, they couldn't cope with too much disease. They also have a past experience dealing with such viruses. I mean, there have been a variety of viruses in the last 20 years, which we all know about, that have hit Vietnam. So they have already practiced how to handle such situations, which makes them better prepared.
Okay, so we're back from our bathroom break, fresh and ready to go. So we were talking about work-life balance and what I've learned in this last very interesting and unusual year about what's important in life. I've learned that my idea of work-life balance was completely off. And of course, I have a Western mentality, so I thought it's all about money and career, and I have to, you need money, you need security, you need material things, all of these things. So these are the things we were taught, that you need to have these things to have a good life. And I was pursuing those things, and I was very happy. But I realized from staying home in the last year that I think I would have been much more happy, and I will be more happy if I spent more time with the people that I love. Because I was spending very little time with them, and as a result, I think that I was becoming a little bit, I know that in the last year I've become more attached and more connected with my wife. We've always had a decent relationship, but you become a little bit, you grow a little bit apart. Not an unhealthy amount that you want to break up, but at least you spend most of your time apart with other people, and that becomes a bigger part of your life than your time with your family and your wife and connecting. I mean, there's only so much connecting you can do when you get home at 8 o'clock and you watch TV for an hour or two and then you go to bed. So, but now that I've been home mostly, I've seen my daughter grow up. She's 1 year and 8 months now. And I would have missed out on 80% of it. We'll just wait until this noisy
Can
blender
you
stops.
imagine? Surprise! That's the way it is when you film from a cafe and you have a surprising grinder who's suddenly turning and spinning the beans.
It's just part of the show.
It's part of the show. They're making our coffee. It's going to be brewed on the spot, and I'll let you know how it feels. Okay.
So how about you? How has this last year been for you? What are your takeaways? How do you feel about it?
I think, it's been for myself, there are a variety of levels you can look at it. So, it's been challenging. That I think that can be said to me, but can be said to most people. And to me, there has been most challenges business-wise because I had, built my business for the last 12 years, and I was actually planning to sell it and planning to retire and go travel the world with my family. That was my plan. But because of COVID, things changed. And, we lost over 80% of our business. So obviously we had to downsize greatly. We've been able to survive so far.
So now you only have 5 cars and 3 boats.
And a yacht. No, it's a joke. No. Now I've got only, when you are laughing, you're just in it and you are here and now,
Yeah.
And then when you are dancing, it is the exact same.
Yeah.
You are in connection with the music, with the environment, with the beat, with the person you may be dancing with the flow, with the public, and there is a total wholeness and connection with everything. So
certain things bring us to the present moment like nothing else.
that's right. And telling a story, like I'm telling now, I'm not thinking about my accounting issues or blah, blah. No, I am totally in. And you cannot tell a story effectively unless you are 100% with that story,
Yes.
in the here and the now. So what I'm saying is that, because of everything that's happening, if they let us be who we are meant to be, there is a fantastic opportunity for human beings to rediscover who they truly are and to embrace mindfulness in being in the here and now. And if we can teach again for every human beings to embrace this lifestyle of being in the here and the now, then humanity will resolve all these problems and will learn to live in peace with itself and with one another, because we will feel complete. What makes us so rash and so defensive and aggressive is the sense of lack, the things that we are missing with it.
Sense of incompleteness. Yes.
Insecurity,
Yeah.
incompleteness, fear.
We need something more to feel complete. More money, more this, more that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and because of that, we are on this constant, the rat wheel to get more and more, but you never feel that sense of satisfaction. It's the Buddha's story,
That's right.
right? And he learned it almost 3,000 years ago, and we are almost being put into a situation, we've been put into a situation where we're rediscovering that. I think that has been one of the biggest problems of Western society, the lack of time for introspection and reflection. And because of that, we've focused on the things that are not important. However, if now that we have the time for introspection and a moment to think and get clarity and just reflect on things, I think it will make us nicer towards each other.
Let me challenge you to that, because yes, we have more time, but the question is, what do you do with time that you have? And the problem is that most human beings are not at ease in silence. They feel uncomfortable. This is why most of the human beings must be connected to an external source of data, being the television, being the telephone, being the news or the magazine or reading a book. So all these tools give us an opportunity to not think about ourselves and who we are. So very often the people, they don't, as soon as you are seated in a bed and simply being, and how was my day, and questioning yourself. You may realize that maybe you failed and you didn't do something so good, and maybe you can learn from that, and asking yourself a lot of questions and doubting yourself and saying, am I being right when I'm saying this, and questioning your way of thinking and your perception of the world, and asking a lot of questions. Then you may become aware of a lot more. But no, we do not spend that time. What we do is we open the television until we go to sleep, and then we look at CNN or someone and who is basically spreading a lot of information, who basically to keep our mind busy and focus on what they want us to hear. Because as soon as we continue to listen to what they say, then we continue to behave as they want us to behave. We became programmed. It's like a software. You feed him with a lot of data, then he behaves with the data that he receives. And that's what's happening right now. The media, mass media, is controlling the world with improper information that is making us act like sheep do. Like we do not think for ourselves. You know, oh, the herd say go forward, there is a cliff, let's jump over it and die. That's okay, because everyone does it.
Yeah, and I guess, like they say, input equals output, right?
Exactly.
So these days, most of us don't have the time or the will to sit still without any of these devices and anything else to distract us, and to just sit still and think and ask ourselves these questions, so we never are able to course correct and make changes in our life. So we don't think about, oh, did I do this right today? Maybe I was a little bit, not very nice with that person today, the big way I behaved with him. We don't even think about that. So how can we make corrections and change? We are just thinking about what's on the TV, what's happening in the world and politics, what's happening in this. You're just distracted all the time, and you're just living your life not really thinking at all. And we've been given this incredible machine, this brain, that we are not even using.
And we are feeding this brain with so much negativity, because you turn any news channel, I mean, this is a crime against human beings. Yeah. It is feeding your soul and telling you that the world is horrible, is mean, is awful, is dangerous. That's all that they are doing all day, which is not true. The world is amazing. The world is beautiful. There is more beauty in the world than horror, for sure. But we focus on what's wrong instead of focusing on what's right.
Why do you think that is?
Because that's the best. Fear is the best way to control beings. If you want people to obey, then you make them fear. I mean, that has existed since the Mesopotamia. I mean, since Babylon times, the rule is, if you're a slave back then, I mean, which we are today anyway, you basically are born to do what your master tells you to do. And if you do not, and if you escape, then you get beaten and you get killed. So you learn, if I messed up and don't do what I'm told to do, then basically the consequences will be worse than where I am now.
So I better follow orders.
And do as they say.
And I'll be safe and be fed and I'll be okay.
Comfortable and secure. And I accept to give my freedom, and I accept to be a slave, and I accept to be taken advantage of. Human beings are willing to survive, to cope with so much that is unsafe for themselves.
I think there's also a little bit of hijacking our system, because we are almost designed for survival. So we look extra carefully at things that scare us or that threaten our survival. So negative things make a bigger impact on us than positive things. Okay, you see a flower, great. Uh-oh, there's a guy with a gun. He killed someone else. I better be careful. There's people with guns now. I think that there's also that, and because people, in the media and elsewhere, they know this way of hijacking us, they give us more negative things to catch our attention. Because flowers and puppies aren't going to always catch your attention.
No, for sure. It's the emotional drive,
Yeah.
What drives the ratings is the bad, the sad. You know, every time you talk about what's dark, people, you know why? It's because it makes people feel that, oh, after all, I'm not so bad. There are people that are worse than me, and that's kind of a comforting feeling. But this is all related to, you know, it would be very simple to change the world if we begin by being educating properly. Because why does fear exist? Is because we fear, first because we don't live here and now. So we live in a projected world, we live in the future. So we anticipate what we think we want to happen, which is an attribute of the human being specifically. And therefore, and why do we do that is because we have a notion that our lifespan is determined. But internally, we want to extend that lifespan because we do fear death. Death is the really, really big factor.
That's the big fear.
And since you are a child, you are, you know, you when someone dies, you mourn and you were in dark and then you cry. So it's really a saddening moment. And fortunately, it's not the case for every civilization on Earth, but it is the case in most places. But in fact, death is nothing more than a moment of life, like birth. It's equal, and there won't be death if there wasn't birth. I mean, it's just that there won't be sun if there is no night. Or you know, these are binaries of the world, and there is nothing to worry about death. Death is just a part of life. And what happened after, we have absolutely no idea. So why being afraid of something we don't know? Because in fact, we think it's bad, but who knows? Maybe it's a lot better.
Could be better.
You know, statistically speaking, the odds are equal.
Yeah.
But we are driven to think that this is the end of. It's not. Nothing dies, everything transforms. But we are not. You know, if you educated your children from a very early, don't worry about this. You'll get to it. I'll get to it. Everyone will. That's life. You know. And the day it happens, you know, don't be so concerned because first of all, it's just nature. Everything dies. Everything has a time for die. And what happened after that can also be very, very, very beautiful, you know?
And focusing on just that is very almost unproductive and useless because you should be focusing on the time that you do have.
Exactly.
You know? I mean, I'm worried about something that might happen tomorrow or 10 years or 30 or 50 years from now. And I'm wasting all this time that I have right now to live and be happy.
Exactly.
So it's very counterproductive.
You see, so that is one of the pillars of the reasons why humans beings are most of them permanently unhappy.
How do you feel about the coming year? Do you think
2021?
that everybody's thinking that as soon as the clock strikes 2021, things are magically going to become better? Everybody say, oh, 2020 was the worst year in history. Can't wait for 2021. I don't think it works that way, but...
No, I think people are making, again, humans beings are being hopeful. And they feel that what they have now is worse than what they had before. So their first reaction is can we go back to normal? Sorry, normal. And so they want to go back to what they know. But like I said, it's a great opportunity to create sustainable, meaningful change.
And to create a new normal.
But you cannot change a system and a global system and the mind of people within 1 year. When people have been educated for generation and generation on perceiving the world in one way, and you are trying to reinvent a new model, it cannot happen in 1 year. It's a process that will take time, probably 10, 15 years, and maybe 20. And so this is just the very beginning of the thing. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. And 2021, if I have to make a prediction, will definitely be more difficult, a lot more difficult than 2020. And this is the necessity. It's just, you can only stand up once you've fallen. So the world has not yet fallen on itself, but the system needs to collapse on itself.
You need to get to rock bottom before you can make a change.
Exactly, before it can be reborn into a new model. Because once he has crumbled, and every story we have told ourselves always has been shattered as being irrelevant, then what new stories can I create?
Yes.
And then the opportunity to rebuild something new will arise.
And I think that's an important note for us, because as human beings, as people, we need to, now we've had a year to get used to the way that things have been because of this pandemic and being, almost confined to our places and all of these things. It gives us a very good opportunity to help to build the world that we always dreamed that we want to build. We've always wanted to have a better world. Everybody wants to have a better world. But we've been stuck in the world that has been the way it's been for 50 years, at least. The postmodern world since World War II has been pretty much the same, just industrialization, technology getting more and more advanced, and our humanness being a little bit less and less taken out of us. We've become a little bit more like automatons because we haven't had to think as much, we haven't had to reflect as much, because we've been just lending that out to machines that we work on every day, to TV that does the thinking for us when it tells us stories and things like that, to the news. But now that we've had a chance to do this reflection and the time to think about what is truly important, we can focus on those and start a new era of living the way that we think, well, not we think, that we really know deep inside that will make us happy. Connecting with each other and living smaller, maybe living with less money, living with maybe not having your yacht and all those boats that you have, having a quiet life that is with the people around you and focusing on the things that give you joy and happiness. There are people that are very poor in India and Africa that I've seen that are a lot happier than some rich people that I know.
For sure.
And really, you look at the rich people and they have lives where they travel all over the world, this and that. And then there's these poor people that haven't gone anywhere, but they're laughing and happy every day. And you think about it, why is all the money and the traveling and stuff more fulfilling than having this quiet life? Because really, they have songs about this and stories. More money, more problems, right?
May I share a very touching story? One of the pillar of stories in my life-changing perception. Mm-hmm. I was in Cameroon, in Douala, the capital, and I had a dinghy, and I was talking.
A dinghy, one of the small boats?
No, dinghy, the disease.
Okay. Dengue fever.
Dengue fever.
Okay.
And I was in bed for 3 days, and that was my first one. I never had any others, and I really felt very bad. But after 3 days, I was in a Novotel hotel. I was better, so I go outside, and then I walked down the street about 100 meters from the hotel, and there was a shop, and I remember I wanted to buy something, and as I go into the shop, the door opened. And I knew that there was no electrical system to open that door. So I didn't understand what happened, why the door was open. So obviously I looked down to see what had opened the door. And then when I saw right there was, I don't know if you say that in English, kajat, so people with no leg.
Okay.
There was a man with absolutely no leg. There was a little step and then the door, and he was sitting on the below step, and he had no leg. He had the left arm gone as well. So he only had his right arm. That's the only part of the body with the head who could move. And when I looked down to him, so basically what he had done is he had opened the door. And when he looked at me, he was from down and I was up. He had a striking, bright, deep, meaningful sense of purpose and joy that basically struck me through the eye. And at that very moment, I became aware that if a man that has so little, because that man had less than anyone I know, could emit so much joy, then really it was not about having that will make us more happy. But he was able to perceive that the only thing he can do in life is open the door. And to be given the opportunity to open the door to a white man in an African country is maybe an opportunity to get a bigger coin or a bigger bill, whatever that is. So just that moment where that opportunity is given, he's going to give his very, very best, you know, and that's exactly what he did. And he valued that moment for being an opportunity, even though he had nothing. And I was transcended by that moment, and I can remember it now. And this is 18 years later. So, you know, that goes exactly with what you were saying.
Yeah, I think that you can really give importance or meaning to anything, and we usually have been almost programmed to give it to the wrong things. Things that are important to human beings, like sense of community and connection with other human beings, have become less important to us, and we've given them that meaning on our own. Because the things that have become important, those shining objects, is what we are told by other people, by everything we see and hear, by advertising, that's the thing that we should be focusing on. And I think that now we're starting to wake up and realize that those shiny objects are, I like to almost think of them now as challenges and ways for me to realize that they are temptations. The more money, the bigger car, the bigger house, those are temptations that test you to see how strong your resolve and connectedness with your family and the important things really is. It's a slightly different way of looking at things, instead of thinking that no, that shiny thing is shiny, I better go get it just because it's shiny. You know, that's almost it is a programming. So we are becoming, I think the programming has become much less effective in this last year for myself, just because I've tried to stay away. Of course, you listen to the news and this and that, be aware of what's going on, but I like to listen to not just the narrative that comes out of one area.
Sure.
I want to hear different types of narratives. Some that even challenge me, that make me think that can't be it, really? Okay, well, I don't know, let me just take an assortment of points of views and, you know, think about it for myself. But at least I'm giving myself a chance to think about the different types of views that are out there, the different things that are out there. But I think that we've had a real opportunity in the last year to do a lot of thinking, to do a lot of soul searching. And this, personally for myself and some of the people that I've talked to that have had the same kind of opportunity and felt that it is an opportunity, it's been this last year, to reassess what life is all about. And I think that it's something that we've needed for a long time. This pandemic has almost become like a blessing in disguise.
It is a blessing in disguise,
you know,
for sure. You know, to go and to make it very simple on just what you mentioned is very simple. Is that first we have to admit something which may be difficult, is that nothing is truly real. Everything is relative.
Yes.
So if we accept that rule as a reality, then we realize that we can choose between two paths. Is one, to believe in the story we are told, or to choose to create the story that we want to believe in. And so that simplifies the equation and the questioning, is that, do I want to believe in a narrative of what has been told to me, or do I want to create a narrative which is mine? You know, and when I was telling you about that person, that handicapped, he could have followed the narrative that people, oh, you're a cripple, you have nothing, and you should feel like shit, and you are not productive, and you cannot do nothing, feel very bad about himself, you know. And no, he choose, I only can do that, I can see this as a bright light, and this is what I choose to be. And you know, when you think about greatest scientists, the theory of everything, from English scientist, Gaveau.
The guy in the wheelchair.
That's right. We all know about it. We all know his stories. It's gonna come back to me in a second. So he knew what was to be a living being and have feet and walk and enjoy and sing or whatever. And then suddenly the disease made it that he couldn't move nothing, not even his hands and nothing. But the only thing that could work was his mind. And then he saw that as an opportunity to make his mind the greatest of all, and he did. So that is, what story do you want to tell yourself? What is the story that you want to believe in? And it's all about a story. I'm not saying your story is right, is wrong. It is the story that you choose. So how you react to an input is the story that you want to tell yourself.
And I think you're very right. I think that the main thing is choice. You have to make a choice what you want to believe in, what makes you happy. And if you choose to believe the things that make you happy, you'll be better off instead of choosing to believe what other people tell you to believe.
Exactly.
So I think that choice is something that we've always had, but we have given away our power to choose by just relying on outside sources. And it's a good reminder in this last year that we do have a choice on what we want to believe, on how we want to live, on how we want to behave, and what kind of world we want to be in. It's all a question of choice, isn't it?
It is true, very true, but I think this is also something that is engraved into us, and we do it to our children, is that, from a very young age, we are, by nature, protective of our children. So we are controlling them and trying to protect them by overprotecting them and not allowing them to make the mistake they need to make in order to learn by themselves, in order to ask the question they want. No, don't ask this question, you're too young, And so basically, by limiting our children's capacities to make their choice, they learn that, what should I do, Dad? What should I do, Mom? So, Dad says, so I do. So it's the system that has been built around, don't make your own decision. If the father or the priest tells you you should do that, you should listen. I told you need to go to law school. That's a safe solution. No, Papa, I want to be a singer. I don't care.
You don't choose, I tell you.
Exactly.
And this is why we have to take back our power to choose. But I think that's a great spot to end this podcast. I think that there's so many more things that we could talk about, and we'll definitely have to do it again.
Good.
But this is a great beginning, and I really thank you for your time. We've gotten some great takeaways. This has been a challenging year for everybody, but it hasn't all been bad. I mean, it has reminded us of what is important in life, and it really all comes down to choice. And we have to make the choices that are going to benefit us, make us happy, and treat each other better. It's our power to choose to do those things. So if we don't give away our choice to other people, then we have the power to make a new world. But if we give it away, then other people will make the world that we are going to have to live in.
In my conclusion statement, I would like to say that this opportunity of the COVID gave us the opportunity to realize what is really essential is that we human are not in control. We human are not important. We human should be focusing more on making sure that our environment is sustainable, that we are connected to this external magical earth that is given to us. And that is the lesson, which is not yet enforced, but because of COVID and the reduction in transportation, air transportations, and even other means of transportation worldwide, we've been able to emit a lot less CO2. And then, we have consumed less fish. And then we have basically destroyed the environment a lot less.
COVID has been great for the environment.
And so this needs to continue because, 100 years of damage is not going to be recovered in 1 year. Yes. The nature will always recover, especially the day we are gone. It will take over, that's for sure. But humans have to rediscover that, we are not alone. We are not special. We're just like nothing on the whole universe. And there are, I think next year, and we'll talk about that next time, I hope, that's my prediction. There's going to become awareness of extraterrestrial life who's been on Earth for already hundreds of years. And then we are going to start to be connected to those extraterrestrial lives. And those extraterrestrial lives are going to brought us to light because they are so much more advanced than we are, that they're going to be able to enlighten the human being on what is the proper path to a better life, because they have experienced all those stages in their life growth. So they have made a mistake, and they know how to educate us so that the real change can occur. Let's discuss it next time, if you don't mind.
So we're going to be talking about all kinds of things, aliens, and even crazier things. It'll be challenging, but keep your minds open, because what we've learned is that what we think we know is not everything. So
that's for sure. It's actually nothing, in fact. I'm going to give you a picture. Humans know a lot about matter. We've studied matter, but when you look at the structure of matter, it's made of atoms, and atoms are 99.9999% empty space. So that is to say that we know a lot about matter, and not all of it, we know some of it only, of what is 0.00001% of everything. So that gives you a scale of how much we really know. Then you realize that we are very little, and we should be humble.
Yes. So thank you for your time. Namaste Saigon. We will see
Namaste
you guys
Saigon.
next time. Happy
Thank
holidays.
you. Happy holidays.